super inspiring thought leader, but she's also a lovely, lovely human being. So, Baiba, it's so lovely that you accepted our invitation and you're here with us today. I really appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm just sitting here, just receiving all of the beautiful things that you're saying. I'm just in absolute receiving mode. Thank you so much. And feelings are absolutely mutual. You know, we've spoken a few times and we've always clicked and we've always had beautiful, beautiful conversations. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Thank you for inviting me.
Amazing. So I just want to say a few things about you, because I bet people will be wondering, as I was wondering first time when I saw your LinkedIn posts, and I was like, wow, this woman is a powerhouse, as one of the most like-minded people on LinkedIn right now. And to be honest with you, that was the first thing that I noticed, was your way of expressing yourself and apologetically when it comes to this topic of diversity and inclusion. And I could tell by the way you're writing and expressing yourself in general how passionate you are about this topic. So for those of you who actually do not know Baiba. Baiba is one of our experts in oxygen, and we're so proud of having her being part of a network of elite experts, some of the top experts in the UK. So Baiba is a connector. She loves connecting people, ideas, and paths to the future like dots. She's fearless in challenging the status quo, conventional thinking, and she's someone that you can count on to inspire you to think differently. She's originally from Latvia, and she has spent a decade of her life in the UK. There she obtained a degree in management and entrepreneurship, and since then she has worked for some Fortune 500 companies all over the world, tech startups, big organizations in public sector and governmental institutions. So the key strategic initiatives she has been involved in have been related to people, workplace culture, leadership development, sustainability, diversity, equality, and inclusion. So businesses normally do not second guess their profits, market share, or successes. And yet their culture and people initiatives are based on best intentions, vague strategies, and virtue signaling. So that's what Baiba does, in a way, advises business leaders to know what to do when it comes to making people their biggest asset. And that's something I admire when it comes to you, Baiba. It's just wonderful. But she's also a certified coach. She approaches her work in a non-hierarchical manner, with connection, growth, and co-creation as her guiding values. She's passionate about the power of community, and this is something we have and we share, and we have it in common. She believes in collective action. She's passionate about global impact and the cornerstones of such ambitious and pervasive work that she believes begins with our own self-exploration and inclusion. Baiba, welcome. I'm so excited to have you joining this conversation today. And I just have a question, like, how does it feel? Because I know that you've been working and collaborating with some very big institutions, such as UN Women's, NASA. You've been lecturing and with big universities here in the UK, not only. And I was just wondering, how does it feel when you hear about your achievements and all the things you've done in the past from another person? How does it feel?
Oh, it feels beautiful. And you read it and you kind of repeated it very, very beautifully. So thank you for that testimony and reminding me of all the great things. But yes, sometimes I think, and perhaps you'll be able to relate, perhaps not, perhaps it's me, where we sometimes are the worst at celebrating our own successes. And we are so dedicated to our purpose, to our work, that it's always, okay, this thing is done. What's the next? What's the next thing in the queue? And you jump onto it. And it's kind of like and it never stops. And, you know, some time ago, at the beginning of this year, I received a newsletter of someone, a huge influencer. And one of the things, and she was taking a sabbatical away from her business. And one of the things that she said, and what she was reflecting on, was the fact that we sell this idea that moving away from our 9 to 5 and being an entrepreneur is suddenly going to make our lives easier in terms of our time. But what she was reflecting on was the fact that actually in the process, what we often end up doing is creating even bigger hamster wheels that we are running away from. And that spoke to my soul. And so it is beautiful. It is beautiful to hear that. But I know that I am definitely not the best person in celebrating my own successes. So thank you for creating space for me to just sit here and take it in and hear it and be like, you know, yeah, I did that.
And you know what, sometimes I'm just wondering, you know, getting to have the opportunity to meet women like you. You're so young and you have already done so much, and it's just so inspiring, you know, for people like me. I look up to you. And I was just thinking what you said about sabbatical, because this is something we discuss with employees, our clients, employees on a daily basis. And they're like, you know, when is a good time for me to take a break from work? When is a good time to take a sabbatical? When is a good time to go on a corporate retreat or in a normal retreat or on a digital detox experience? So we talk, and our yoga lab in Oxygen, we discuss so very often how important it is to disconnect from not just from the work environment, but also from the day-to-day lifestyle, so you are able to see yourself from a different angle. And I know that you're a big believer of that, and you actually inspire me to see myself as a person who needs some time and some space to rediscover, redefine, restart. That's part of the journey as well. And I want to ask you a little bit about when it comes to you, because I know that for you it's so important. Your role as a connector is super important. But why is that? And can you tell us more about your experience as a connector?
So it is interesting. So I wrote in my corporate or my professional bio that I'm a connector a long time ago. I wrote it on my LinkedIn account long time ago, years. I don't want to say 10 years ago, but probably close to that. I wrote that there. And kind of the rest of the bio has been evolving in terms of what I've been doing and how kind of like the essence of my work has changed. But that first line has always stayed authentic to me. And you know, some things are difficult to explain. Some things just are. And the best way of how I can explain it is I am a systems thinker. So I'm one of those people who is always interested in how kind of like the individual pieces fit together. Where do they come from? How do they intersect? How do they interact? How are they interconnected, and why? And understanding each kind of like those pieces separately allows me to understand them together, and understanding together allows me to have more empathy for them separately. And I think that is also kind of like at the core of what connecting means. It allows me to, because it's very easy to lose yourself in complex systems. And so for me, I kind of, you know, dissect and break those systems down in very kind of simple but not trivial, kind of simplified trivial ways, in ways that they are easy to take in and comprehend. And I think that's where kind of like this connecting also comes from. Whenever I, meet someone or speak to someone, it always, the back of my mind, like, okay, who would I want this person to meet or connect? And so I'm very open with my network. I keep my network close to my heart. They're very important to me, but at the same time, I'm very open with connecting people to one another. And I have had people within my network who I've connected have made amazing partnerships and done great things together. I connect, and I think we all do that every day anyway, connecting our previous experience that we've done and bringing it into our next project and see what can I take from those lessons learned into here. But to me, it's such a fundamental part of how I show up that I have called myself a connector.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And since the day I met you, I felt that you have this natural charisma of, active listening, empathy, compassionate approach. Like, you have this to the maximum level. And that's why when I talk with you, I feel like it's powerful. I feel like I talk with my therapist or whatever. Like, it's just crazy. I mean, you have this. It's your natural talent, because the way I say it, when you're a connector, what happens is that people trust you. People want to be next to you and around you. And you make people to feel comfortable within their own skin. You make them feel that, that they are doing the right thing, and they have nothing to be, they have nothing to hold them back, right? It's as if you give them permission to be themselves, their authentic selves. And I feel that this is one of your greatest talents. Since day one, since I met you, I feel this connection. And I feel like because you're the type of person, you can easily connect people and build synergies and launch initiatives with others, because you are that type of person, So that's another reason why I feel like I've met you. It's not just because we partner and work together in different projects, but it's also because I admire you on a personal level, and you inspire me on a personal level. So now, speaking of synergies, speaking of partnerships, right? Initiatives with other organizations or other players. Could you share some examples with us of the strategic initiatives you have been involved in related to people, workplace culture, and diversity and inclusion?
Yes, of course. And I just want to respond to what you said just a moment ago. I just want to say a huge thank you for such a beautiful testimony, and for taking a moment to articulating your thoughts so beautifully. I really appreciate you taking the time of doing that, because I feel that we don't necessarily do that enough, and we don't necessarily take enough time to spread such beautiful messages. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And once again, feelings are 100% mutual. But yes, speaking of strategic initiatives that I have been involved in around people, happy to give some examples just to kind of like highlight what are some of the things that I have been involved in. And probably some of the kind of like biggest and proudest pieces are around, they all begin and end with people, because regardless of whether I have been involved in a digital transformation piece, whether I've been involved in target operating model, creating your target operating model, anything like that, everything has been a beginning and ending with people, because we create with and for people. And so in terms of some of the things that I've done, so some of the kind of probably proudest pieces have been around revamping big legacy systems, cultures, or systems in terms of infrastructure that then have transformed of how we connect, how we communicate, how we work together. And that I've done for a number of organizations, a number of large organizations, of where we have for instance, where we have, looked at talent acquisition model, how do we bring in people, how do we hire, how do we onboard people within an organization, and revamped it from how we interact with our colleagues and customers internally, with our partners internally and externally, and also with our external customers or talent ultimately. What do those processes look like? How do they communicate, and how can we bring people closer together in those processes? So I've done those. I've piloted those kind of like in smaller spaces, kind of like in smaller teams and departments, but often they have spread across the whole organization because they've been so impactful. They've had such good feedback that in the end, they have been rolled out across the organization. Another example, I mentioned target operating model. So that was a huge piece of work that I was involved in, where we revamped the whole technology department target operating model. And that meant that we had to triple the size of the team and hire extra 200 people in the space of less than a year. And that is obviously it's a huge piece of work, but it's also a huge disruption for the organization and the department. And you have to get very, very intentional about what is that you are building here, so that when those people arrive from other organizations with already, with their skills, with their experiences, with their with bits of other cultures that they are kind of like bringing along with them, how do we embed those people, and how do we, create a culture where it doesn't grow 9 heads and start eating us up, from inside ultimately? And so that's exactly where we started, even though we had this big project to kind of like lean into, and there was a time frame, and it was kind of like a ticking bomb. It was very, very important for us to come together, as a leadership team, as a management team, and really define what is that we are looking to create here, and get really, really explicit about not only beautifully written values on the wall, but actually how do we operationalize them in this environment. And a lot of that was also around training people and training management team on how to be good line managers, good leaders, but also good interviewers, and how can because we had very, very not necessarily in a lot of resources available to hire such huge number of people. So we had to train all of these people up at speed of how to be good hiring managers, good interview panels, to support one another. And they had real great sense of ownership, not only of their immediate team that they were hiring, but of the whole department. And it was actually very challenging, but it was a beautiful project to be part of, because everyone from the service desk, from frontline desk, all the way up to the executive team, everyone was involved. Everyone had a role to play. There was a sense, there was a collective sense of ownership in this piece, and everyone felt that they had a role to play in onboarding this talent, but also ensuring that this is the culture that we are creating and we are staying true to it. So that was very, very beautiful. And I would say the key to success of this was that the leadership team was bought in and committed to it from day one. And they didn't just talk about it in big flashy meetings, in strategic meetings, but they talked about it every single day. And they showed it every single day in their behaviors, and that was very, very visible. And I would say that was the key to success. The rest of us, of course, that was the process. That was tools, methods, and process, but actually the commitment, the buy-in, the resources, and really staying with the process was what made it a huge success. So those are just a couple of examples. Other things involve, where mergers and acquisitions, where, for instance, two companies come together, and now of two different cultures, and now you have to create one cohesive culture where there already are perhaps some that there are huge disruptions, that there is a lot of ambiguity, perhaps there have been a level of redundancies, and now in all that heat of emotion, you have to create a cohesive and healthy culture. So those are usually quite challenging projects to be involved in, but very, very interesting.
It sounds complex, challenging, and interesting all at the same time. But
yes.
It's just interesting how, because we had the conversation before about what a diversity and inclusion strategy is all about, and what are the key parameters, and what are the main kind of the foundations of every single successful DEI strategy. And what I really noticed, and I see that again, is that you have the ability to take something which is so multidimensional and so multi-complex, and because you're so passionate about it, you help the other person to get it in a simple way. You bring so much clarity, and I feel that this is another component when it comes to how do we make sure the senior leaders of an organization are super engaged and invested to make a difference. And I feel like this is why it's so important, people like you, to have this kind of personality and mindset, because this is the mindset that eventually makes the other person feel like, okay, now I'm driven, I'm incentivized, I'm motivated, I know why this matters, right? Because in this world, so many times I feel like, okay, workplace well-being, workplace culture, diversity and inclusion, these are so kind of, for some people, they are so like broad topics, and like so kind of a lot of generic ideas around these topics, and people are like, sometimes they're wondering, okay, where do I start? And yeah, how do I make this more doable, actionable, easy to understand and discuss about topic? And I know this is one of the greatest challenges. So when I hear you talking about these topics, it gives me so much hope and inspiration that we can actually create this world where we can discuss about those topics in a way that is engaging, and it's not just like theoretical and generic. And so that's what
Yes.
yeah, absolutely love that about your approach. Now I spoke about the generic way of the generic ideas around diversity and inclusion, and that brings me to some of the common challenges we see businesses face when it comes to developing a strong workplace culture, when it comes to bring together some effective people initiatives. So in your opinion, what are the most kind of common challenges?
I think you already touched on them as you were reflecting on some of the things that I said. The first thing is that the culture is a broad topic. It is a broad subject, and we shouldn't trivialize it, and we shouldn't kind of like simplify it in one way. But yes, we absolutely have to simplify it, on the other end, so we are able to break it down and actually create it in bite-sized items that we can actually attack on day-to-day basis or complete on day-to-day basis, absolutely it's huge, absolutely it's broad, and it never becomes smaller. It just becomes clearer, exactly as you said. There is an acute lack of clarity when it comes to our cultures, from what it means, what it looks like, how it shows up, and what does it look like from the kind of expectations versus reality point of view. And we often shy away from the reality because we have the beautiful, again, going back to the beautiful values written on our walls, the values written on our website. We have the marketing material reflecting our aspirational state, but then the reality very rarely looks like that. And then when we are told there is a gap here, let's look at that gap and let's see how we can create a pathway towards that aspirational state. Because what a lot of organizations have with their values, with their mission statements, vision statements, and slick website, that's like a vision board, right? That's like a vision board that we create for ourselves, like where we want to be. But we have to realize that we are not there yet. If we have, I don't know, be on a TED stage on the vision board, right? We understand that there are steps that are involved, skills that we need to evolve and learn to be able to get anywhere near there. And it works the same way when it comes to our cultures. And so and there are ways of how to do it. So I think organizations just get lost in all the tasks, and another mistake and challenge is that they try to attack everything at the same time. They try to attack all the priorities. Everything is a P1 priority, but potentially they are, but we still have to pick, P1, one or two of those P1s and only attack those. And we have to realize that, that work is never done. The fact that we're going to attack all of them and going to mobilize a team to do all of those things, it doesn't mean that in a year's time we will be able to tick all of them off and now we're going to be done with the culture work. We are never done. We're always evolving, we're always learning, we're always improving. We are, it always is a journey, it always is a process. So I think that's another thing that that organizations and people need to come to terms with, that this is going to be a long run, this is going to be a journey, this is going to be complex, this is going to be frustrating, and we will only be able to see the difference between now and then, when we get those 12 months down the line or those 18 months down the line, and when we can really kind of like look back. And sometimes those big changes are not necessarily visible in the moment, and we have to accept that. Another challenge, of course, is that there are a lot of buzzwords out there, and especially when it comes to culture and now the diversity and inclusion space, where organizations just want to jump on those bandwagons, use those buzzwords, because things like DEI, JEDI, whatever, they roll off our tongues very, very easily. But actually, each of those acronyms and each of those words or terms within those acronyms, they mean something. And they are urgent calls to action. But because we trivialize them and they roll off our tongues, so easy, and they just become part of, the buzzword, lingo that we use every single day, that work loses impact. And we are very quick with creating social media and media announcements about what we are doing without actually having resources behind it, without having the commitment towards it, without having a strategy towards it. So we live in a world kind of like this, again, social media piece, when you look at these like Instagram carousels, where it's kind of like fitness coaches, right, before and after of their clients, before and after that someone's lost 42 kilos or something, and we want to see those before and after straight away. We want to see the before and after side by side, but we don't want to do the work that's involved in the middle. And there is like sweaty, dirty, frustrating work that's involved in the middle. And we have to be prepared and courageous enough to embark on that work if we ever want to get to that after stage, if we ever want to fulfill those, vision board goals. So those, I would say, would be, some of the key challenges.
It just makes me thinking by just listening to you, Baiba, that this applies to our personal life too, right?
100%.
It's all about being patient enough. And that's the conversation I have with HR so many times, that I we have this conversation about there are no silver bullets, right? There's not a quick fix, that there is a journey and there is a destination, but we need to accept that it will take some time, that it will require X amount of resources, that, as you beautifully said, include a certain amount level of frustration. And this is okay, because that applies to our personal life as well, right? When we want to achieve a goal, we're talking about the transformation that needs to take place, and this is a process which requires awareness, requires maybe a high level of consciousness that we need to build. It requires consistency and working together as a team to make this happen, right? So to keep working and moving towards the same goal. So I loved what you said, and I feel like it's so important, same like in life, to have one or two goals and be like, just a few goals really, and be like, what, we will invest all our available resources, time, energy to achieve X, Y, Z, and not the entire agenda, the 5 years plan, whatever that is. And same on a personal level, right? I see many of my clients' employees who actually start the new year with a lot of different resolutions, and they have a long list, and I always encourage them to keep this list as short as possible, and the shorter the list, the greater the progress, the greater that sooner they will arrive at the destination they want, but they also will have the space and the time to enjoy and cherish each step of the journey. So what, you spoke about the challenges, but I feel also there is another challenge that I get to see all the time, and I get to hear about it all the time from HR leaders, and this is all about psychological safety. So, for example, myself as a CEO of an employee well-being brand and as a corporate well-being expert, I know that it's so hard to discuss about mental health issues at work, or to raise awareness of mental health issues at work. And many times, because senior leaders, they are a little bit kind of skeptical, thinking that they might open the Pandora's box of, okay, we now address burnout, the next month all our employees will discuss about burnout, and this is not beneficial for us in our department, right? So I hear this type of conversations that, yes, more and more businesses, they do want to have this conversation about mental health issues and how to be proactive when it comes to that. But there is also a level of concern in terms of how are we going to what is the right space to start having these conversations? So and what I've noticed over and over again is that among those organizations where we see this element of psychological safety, where employees do not feel shy or guilty or think twice before they discuss about mental health issues, these organizations are the ones which are thriving and they're growing, and they have the best workplace culture. But this psychological safety applies also to other topics like diversity and inclusion, for example, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about what's the importance of trust and psychological safety in driving growth, innovation, and inclusion within organizations?
Yeah, it's a very topical question right now, very topical subject. And the thing is that organizations want high profits, they want high productivity, they want the revenue, they want the market share, they want all of those things. And then they go and read the McKinsey viral report and they say, well, companies that have higher diversity have higher revenue, or they're more profitable, or they have higher innovation in their organizations, whatever it might be. And so the first thing that they do is create initiatives within their recruitment space of basically just bringing different looking people within their organization. And as my colleague Chapa Toff always says, it is easy to create a diverse looking group. The hard part is the inclusion, because it is easy to create, a diverse looking group of people, but creating a high performing, high impact team, that's the challenging part, because diversity is a potential. And if we bring those people in, but we don't have the environment in which this diversity gets unlocked and where we can actually capitalize on this potential, we just have an organization full of different looking floating heads. And so one of those keys that unlocks diversity is psychological safety. So ultimately, an environment in which people are not afraid of being punished, or there being repercussions of them bringing their experiences and their perspectives to work. It requires a courageous space, but any psychological safety, any culture, I would say, there also has to be boundaries and accountability of what it means and what it looks like. Because we can walk into a meeting and someone in the moment of emotions might be hitting their fist on the table and be trying to make their point, get their point across in that way. But then we say, what, it's okay to be passionate, it's not okay to shout or be aggressive. It's okay to be passionate, it's not okay to cut someone through in the middle of their sentence. So there always are boundaries of what that looks like, and hence psychological safety kind of like goes hand to hand with accountability. But actually what we see today, we see organizations that want all of those shiny things, that want to reach all of those success factors, whatever success factors are unique to them, or not that unique anyway, that they can't reach them and fully capitalize on them unless they do the work. And the work is around psychological safety. How do we ensure that in this environment, we don't have double standards to what one of our values means in this environment? And I think I have shared example before of when I have worked with an organization that had courage as one of their key values. And and what it means, so how they defined it was that you speak up when you see injustices. However, when people did speak up when they saw injustices, it was those people who got punished for speaking up, rather than those things that were brought up were taken seriously and were seriously looked at. And so that harms psychological safety in terms of whose opinion is being taken seriously, whose ideas are being taken forward and who's not. So it is very, very important. So if we are celebrating diversity, we have to talk about inclusion and psychological safety first. and really diversity in sense of representation, absolutely, it's, you know, one of the inputs, but actually the input should be psychological safety and inclusion, so that diversity can be the output.
I loved what you said, and I'm so glad that I'm so glad to know that for you personally, psychological safety plays an integral role in when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And so many times when I discuss with our clients about diversity and inclusion, especially those who haven't done much for whatever reason, the question is always, okay, assuming that we haven't done much in this area, right, in this topic, so what would you recommend us to do? What would be the priorities or the first couple of steps we should take towards this direction? What would you say to these people? Like, what would you respond back?
And you said it at the very, very beginning of this conversation, you know, when you were reading out my bio, is that organizations do not second guess their profits. They do not second guess their growth. They do not second guess their, you know, innovation or whatever it is, their market share, but they second guess anything that is to do with their culture often. And so, and psychological safety, you know, culture, psychological safety, belonging, inclusion are often very elusive subjects to people. They're very difficult to grasp and put on the paper in terms of what do these things look like in terms of hard code data or insights or numbers or money, pound signs, whatever it is, but they absolutely come with all of those business metrics. And so we shouldn't second guess psychological safety. There are tools, there are scientific database tools out there that allows us to assess the state of psychological safety within our organizations, and understand the state of it, understand where is the beginning point and what are the key levers, the biggest elements that currently impact this specific organization of their, let's say, lack of psychological safety, because it will be different things for different organizations. And then once we have clarity, once again, we come back to the same thing. Once we have clarity of what are those things that contribute to lack of psychological safety in our unique environment, we can start creating specific interventions for those specific levers and start implementing those. And then we can, again, in 3, 6, 12 months, reassess it and specifically measure the impact of those interventions on psychological safety, or those elements that contribute to psychological safety. So it's data, it's metrics, it's visual, it's optimizable, and we are not second guessing here. So again, you know, going back, we should stop treating these topics as elusive subjects that, you know, we just create pretty presentations about and shake our finger to bad, you know, managers who don't create psychological safety and say, you know, and put more you know, more weight on these people who are already trying to do a lot with their days and with the tasks at their hand. We can measure these things. We can measure the components of our culture the same way as we can measure other things. Yeah,
that's such a great point, actually. And I was just thinking that this, you know, the thing that, you know, it's not about second guessing, it's about doing kind of a diagnosis, right? See,
100%.
That's the first step. So when it comes to diagnostic tools around diversity and inclusion, is there any specific that you recommend, or are there any tools specifically that you suggest to businesses to test or start exploring?
There are a couple of tools out there right now, but the most comprehensive that I have seen, I have worked with, and I personally work with, is a tool by ICQ Global, which is an organization, and I'm part of the organization. I'm certified partner and user of this tool. So you can't just go and kind of like buy this tool and go and apply it in your organization. It has to be administered by a trained coach, by a trained consultant, who comes in, who administers, who interprets the results, or the state as it is, and helps the organization, helps the leaders to, again, not jump onto quick conclusions, not jump onto all of the P1 priorities, but to really dissect it, really break it down. So yes, it's ICQ Global tool. It's called Growth Zone, and it is data driven. It's scientifically driven and backed tool, used by, I think, over 200 certified practitioners right now, and we have amazing results all over the world, in public space, in public sector, in academia, in Fortune 500 organizations, who are courageous enough to take this tool on and look straight in the eyes to the specific things about their culture that are holding them back from those 20% increases in innovation and 25% increases in profits and whatever other things that have been promised to them.
So our recommendation then to our network of clients is to explore the specific tool, preferably working with an amazing expert like you, so they can discover, first of all, what are the pain points, what are the key challenges, and then from there we can discuss about the priorities and what are those 1, 2, 3 goals within a year that we want to achieve, right? So I highly recommend this to our entire network to work with you. You're so amazing. And now my last question is all about you as a professional, right? Because, by just talking with you, you have this kind of your passion, your energy is so contagious, right? So but for someone who looks at you, who interacts with you, they can tell that you're so much aligned with your purpose, your true purpose. And this is so empowering to other people as well, because there is hope. You can do something that you really love and dedicate your life to that single purpose, and live a life of service as you do, Baiba. So my last question for today is what motivates and inspires you to continue your work in this field?
As we talked at the beginning, I am a huge systems thinker and a connector, and so continuing to explore and evolve my own understanding and skills in this field are a huge motivator to me, because I have a belief that when I open myself up to change, so does the world around me. And I do not want to, live in a world and perpetuate systems that oppress, exclude, and harm others. And so I recognize that. I recognize that all the things that I strive for, that most of us strive for, balance, joy, wealth, health, in this world, are all interconnected with others. And so every day I actively choose to wake up and stand in the gap, a kind of, if not me, who else, right? And it kind of makes me think to that Theodore Roosevelt's famous quote about, that it's not the critic who counts, but the one who is in the ring, who is sweaty, who is dirty, who's got blood on your face, right? And I kind of live by that as well. I can't stand or sit on the couch and just go and criticize someone. I have to, if I want to do that, I have to be in that ring and do the work as well. And so I actively choose to step in that ring every single day. And the act itself motivates me.
Wow, that's so powerful what you just said about the ring, because this is the question I'm asking myself all the time when I get to be criticized, you know. Yeah, I mean, sometimes in this world of corporate well-being, we see a lot of people who actually want to, want to have this kind of archaic mindsets, and when they see a person who sees well-being, employee well-being differently, they feel almost like attacked or whatever, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
I'm wondering, myself, because of course I have experienced so much rejection, so much criticism, and so much kind of judgment, right? But at the end of the day, I'm just saying to myself that there's no greatest reward than spending time with, for example, I was at the CIPD summit the other day, and I did some mini talks and some workshops, and having this experience, like interacting with all those employees there, and delivering those talks, and experiencing the response, right? The real life people's response at what, I mean, that's thrilling, that's ecstatic, that's my reward. And that's, at the end of the day, that's why I'm personally keep myself inspired and motivated to just seeing the impact, and seeing the impact not by just having a conversation, but an action,
Yes.
seeing the results. And it's just incredible. And I feel like those people who actually criticize you, now those people who are not in the arena, are not in the ring, and they do not experience those feelings of ecstasy, fulfillment, doing the meaningful work as we do. So I consider myself being blessed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that feels to you when you get to share, when you get to run your webinars, your workshops, when you get to build strategies for business. How does it feel when you see the impact, right?
Yes. I mean, impact is everything. Impact is my key business measurement, or key business or a growth indicator. It is about impact, because we often step into spaces with intention, with best intentions, with common sense and best intentions, but that's the recipe for disaster. Because we have to realize that there is no such thing as common sense, because we each have got our own common sense, and often our common senses are in direct conflict. So who has got more common sense than the other? And intentions, and best intentions sometimes go dead wrong, and best intentions sometimes create the worst harms. So we have to think about the impact. How is this going to impact? How my action is going to impact something? And when you talked about the critics and the people who are criticizing and who are making comments and so on. And absolutely, there sometimes are some people that kind of like their comments or something gets to you. But I also I always kind of, when that thought gets out of my reptile brain, I always ask myself a question: is this person standing next to me in the arena doing the work? Do they have the power to criticize me and my work? And more often than not, it's not. Because I've also noticed in kind of like my network of professional colleagues and friends, entrepreneurs, practitioners, people who choose to show up, no one who does as much or more as I do has ever criticized me. It's only the people who choose to say big words, create flashy content, but there is no impact. And there are so many people out there who have been in this space, and I'm not saying this space is DEI, it could be, you know, any space, for 10, 15, 20 years, and there's not one thing that they can hang their hat on. And so I, you know, and so yeah, that's kind of like a way of how I maintain my peace of mind and my mental health in the process, is that, you know, is this person standing next to me in the arena, or are they sitting in the cheap seats on their, you know, foldable chair shouting something? Then unfortunately, you know, you don't have the rights to say anything here. So yeah.
I love what you said. I think now that we are in this period of the summer, I just look at I'm based in London, for those of you who will watch this recording later. And I'm just thinking about how sunny and beautiful the weather is these days, and we're just in the very beginning of the summer period. I know that you are ready to take your sabbatical. For me, it's just a sailing trip. I'm also a certified sailor, so I can't wait to play with the ropes, and that's my detox period. But for those employees who are watching, what do you recommend when it comes to disconnecting from work, and when it comes to taking care of our well-being and work-life balance in this context of taking a break?
I would say do it, but do it properly. Do it properly. Leave your devices home, even if you don't have the opportunity this summer to go away on flashy holidays or investing in going, you know, on expensive trips. Do the favor yourself and just close your devices. Leave your phone at home if you can. And when you are in a restaurant, in a park, even in, you know, in the backyard with your children, with your family, just be 100% present with them. Be, you know, go outside when it's sunny if you can, and when you can during that lunch break or in an evening, or wake up half an hour, you know, earlier, just to like go around your house for a moment. But just take those, appreciate those little, and find those little moments every single day where you can, you know, receive some sunlight, receive some oxygen, receive some disconnection from the hamster wheel that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, and get away from the screens. That, to me, whenever I've done that, sometimes a day or a weekend away from screens, from my phone, feels like I've been away for, you know, a whole week somewhere on like some resort holiday. So absolutely do it. You know, don't beat yourself up if you can't go away anywhere. There are little, small, but very, very impactful ways of how you can look after yourself every single day. Choose yourself and do it.
I love that. I love that. And I love the digital detox idea, the digital well-being idea, which is so important, to disconnecting from work. It is not a reality if we do not learn first how to disconnect from our devices. And so many of us, let's be honest, let's face it, we are addicted to our mobile devices and our digital devices in general. So it's so important to take a digital detox. It's so important to prioritize that. Bye. It was so wonderful. I mean, this conversation, and every time I have a conversation with you, it feels cleansing for the soul. It feels therapeutic. It feels like a healing process. It feels like oxygen. It feels like our platform. Every single time I talk with you, oxygen, oxygen. And I just want to invite all our clients to reach out to us and get the opportunity to get to work with you and see and experience what you have to offer, because it's so extraordinary, and it can make such a big difference when it comes to their employee well-being, to their mental health. So if you're watching this and you're just wondering about how to make this happen, how to get started working with us and Viva, feel free to reach out. You all can connect with me, can send me an email anytime you want. You're part of our network. So please reach out. We highly recommend her. She's one of the best DEI experts, and not only, as I have said in the very beginning of this conversation today. Raiba, before we end this interview, is there anything that you would like to share with our audience, with our network, or anything in general that you would like to mention that we haven't mentioned so far?
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for, creating this space for us to have a conversation, for creating Oxygen, because I think it's a beautiful community. It's a beautiful vision. You absolutely inspire me in what you do. I'm always inspired and energized by amazing women who have a huge purpose, huge vision, and who so intentionally are putting one foot in front of the other to create that. And I love how it serves many. So it is an absolute privilege, and I'm humbled to be part of this community and to be creating with you and to be creating for your network. And I look forward to working with anyone. And I can just say that whatever we're going to do together, I know is going to be meaningful. It is going to be it's not going to be fluffy. It is going to be measurable. There's not going to be any second guessing. We're going to do serious work. So I absolutely, invite people who are, ready to embark on some serious work that will be meaningful, impactful, uncomfortable, but in a very safe environment. I look forward to working with those people.
I love that. I love it. I love it. So, Baiba, thank you so much for being part of this one-to-one conversation. And thank you for investing your energy, your beautiful energy, your vibes, your insights, your best practices. And I'm so excited that we are just launching Oxygen, and you are one of those kind of 20 experts, because on Oxygen we work only with the tier 1 experts of our network. So I'm so proud of having launched a platform which features experts like you. So thank you so much for today. For those of you who are watching, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, if you have any comments, any ideas to share with us. We're always open. And this interview will be on our Oxygen platform, will be also on our YouTube channel, and we will share it on all our social media platforms to make sure that everyone in our network is aware of our amazing experts and Baiba here today. So thank you so much again, Baiba. Have a beautiful summer. We're just in the very beginning of June. Enjoy your sabbatical, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Likewise, thank you so much, and thank you to all of your team who's working so hard behind the scenes, putting this all together. You're all amazing, and yeah, I look forward to my summer break and coming back energized and doing something really cool together again.
Amazing. Sounds great. Thank you again for your time. Have a beautiful rest of the week and speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.